My name is Matt, 33, and my ex-wife, Lori, 26. We have been married for only 2 years. It's still so sad that Lori destroyed everything we shared after all the promises we made to each other. Lori and I met at a mutual friend's wedding in my hometown long ago. Coincidentally, we both traveled from the same state to attend the wedding. The groom was a close friend of mine from high school, and Lori was related to the bride. They were cousins. At the wedding, I could not take my eyes off of her, and I could not explain why. That marked the beginning of our relationship. We dated for a year before getting married. Profession-wise, she was a nurse and I worked as a data analyst, so we were both doing okay financially. Initially, I considered marrying Lori as one of the best things that ever happened to me because our lives were almost perfect, and I never believed a time would come when Lori would shatter my heart. We were a team and we found a way to balance our busy schedules. When we were both at home, we did almost everything together. We ate together, shared the bathroom, went shopping, traveled, and so much more. Our intimate life was also top-notch. She was so great in bed, and because I loved her company so much, we agreed that we wouldn't have kids in the first 2 years of our marriage so that we could enjoy our moments without interruptions, and she loved the idea. I won't say that we were the perfect couple. There were days of mood swings and wanting to be alone, but we barely fought. We understood each other and stuck to what needed to be done at home. The only time Lori and I had something to fight about was when I found out she was entertaining a conversation with a man flirting with her on Instagram, and I was so mad. According to her, the man saw one of her bikini pictures and reacted to it, and she had told him she was married, but that didn't stop him. I wasn't even pissed at the man. I was mad at Lori for taking things that far with him. Their conversation even became sensual, and she claims she didn't take any of the things he said seriously, and that she was only having fun with him. When she saw that I was so angry and I wasn't buying any of her excuses, she blocked him, and since then, we never fought over something like that again. On my end, I was a very strict and disciplined person, and anything or anybody that seemed to push me in the direction of cheating on Lori, I had to cut them off without thinking twice. I did this because I had been cheated on in the past, which took me a while to heal, and I didn't want to hurt Lori or anyone in that way. Meanwhile, my father had been battling a terminal illness for years, which was why I visited him twice a month. I also had hired a personal nurse to look after him, but his health kept deteriorating as time passed. Around the 2nd year of our marriage, I visited my dad one weekend as always, and I didn't love how I met him. I felt I wasn't doing enough as a son. I was so bothered that when I returned to my house, I asked Lori if my dad could move in with us. I was an only child, and he didn't have anyone else to look after him. My mother also passed away 5 years ago due to some heart issues. At that state of his illness, I believed it would be better for him if he stayed close to his family. Also, his health was worsening day by day, and I wanted to spend those days with him in case they were his last. After much persuasion, Lori agreed for my father to move in with us, and I was glad. I was even happier because she was a nurse, and I thought she would also help look after her father-in-law, but after much deliberation, I changed my mind. A few days later, my father moved in with us. My ill father's presence caused a couple of things to change between Lori and me. I started spending more time with my father and less time with Lori. It wasn't like I neglected her or something. I didn't. We still spent time together, but it was not like before. My father's condition required someone to feed him, bathe him, help him take a pee, and do other things he couldn't do on his own. And doing all of these things took my time, so I hired a caregiver to help look after my father. As of the time my father moved in with us, I was working remotely, which gave me the flexibility to juggle between working and looking after him. The first 4 weeks after my father moved in with us, Lori treated him well and tried to spend time with him, which made me happy somehow. But after a month, her attitude changed completely. She started ignoring him and acting around him like he was a leaper. Initially, I thought she acted that way because she was always exhausted whenever she came home from work, but I noticed that even on her free days, she wouldn't even care if my father was home with us or not. In fact, on the days, Lori could go the whole day without seeing or asking of him. Lori would be at home watching TV or doing something with her phone, and after that, she'd go out to hang out with her friends or visit her family. When her new attitude got out of hand, I confronted her about it, and she told me to my face that it was my problem to be worried about my father and not hers. She also mentioned something about not wanting him anymore in the house because he was spreading his disease and she hated the smell of old people. How ironic for someone who worked in a hospital. I never expected to hear that from her, and it came as a shock. It'd be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed to hear that. I already had enough of her attitude, and as if it was not enough, she complained that our house stank and reeked of medicine and dirt. She even went as far as saying that she didn't leave the hospital to come back at home and smell like a hospital. And as a result of that, she preferred to spend more time outside with her colleagues from work and girlfriends than come home to me and my dad. Meanwhile, her change in attitude did not only affect her relationship with my father, it affected our marriage too. I know it was a very tough time for us, and having an elderly sick person under our roof was not easy, but I expected her to understand for a while. I tried as much as possible to balance work, caring for my father, and our marriage. I didn't want to lose my marriage while looking after my dad because I loved Lori a lot. To be honest, when Lori told me she would be spending more time outside because of my father's presence, I thought she was bluffing. She started staying out late and would return as late as 1 a.m. when she was supposed to be home by 7 p.m. The first time it happened, she said something about going out to drink with her friends at a bar, and they lost track of time and stayed out late. But after that, it became more of a habit. On some nights, she would not return home, which became very annoying. If I asked her why she didn't return home, she'd say she had to cover up for a sick colleague or she chose to work extra time. As she continued with this new lifestyle, we fought more and more. She became very insolent, called me names, and said hurtful words at the slightest provocation. Sometimes, she wouldn't hesitate to start a fight in front of my father. Also, she stopped cooking, doing the dishes, and cleaning the house. She left everything for me to do. All she did was sleep at home on some nights and leave as early as 7 in the morning. It even got to the extent where she stopped inviting her friends and relatives home because, in her words, she didn't want to infect them with my father's disease. While all of this was happening, she came home one night to tell me she'd be going for a 1-week vacation with her girlfriends, her fellow nurses, and I kicked against it. I was hurt that our marriage was in shambles, yet she was more concerned about hanging out with her friends for a whole week. Despite my disappointment, she still went on her vacation. By the time she returned, I was livid after a week of no communication and her posting her bikini photos of the food she ate, and places she went to on social media. She was no longer the Lori I married, and it hurt me so much that she abandoned me in that season of my life. I needed her support and presence the most. Out of anger, I told her to return to where she came from, and without showing remorse, she rolled her box and left the house. This act alone broke my heart. Days passed, and she didn't call to apologize or fix things between us. She wasn't even concerned about me or my ill father. Thankfully, I had a caregiver who took off the responsibility of caring for my father from my shoulder, and I could focus on other things. I had to accept that being away from Lori was messing with my head, so I swallowed my pride and reached out to her. When she refused to pick up my calls, I went to the hospital where she worked at. We talked and I asked her to come back home with me, and she insisted that she would think about it. But after much persuasion, she agreed to come home with me that day. I know you will all say I'm a simp or a weak man, but you won't understand the state of my heart and how lonely I was then. I loved Lori and wanted us to fix whatever was going on between us. After we went home that day, I tried to please her for about 3 days. I served her breakfast in bed and did other things she loved to make her happy and win her heart back. I even went as far as apologizing for any inconvenience my father's presence caused in our marriage, and I hoped things would get back to normal, but it got worse. That same week, Lori slipped out of the house again and did not return the following morning until later in the evening. It was almost like she was telling me, "Do whatever you want to do, I'm not changing my mind about us." And I got the message. In addition to everything happening, She started posting pictures of her at nightclubs, drinking and smoking with her girlfriends, and she wore more seductive and exposing clothes. Even with all of this happening, I still believed our marriage was worth saving until I saw a video that changed everything. One night, while they were out drinking, one of her close single friends, who I also followed on Instagram, posted a video of them hanging out and having fun as usual, and she took turns recording each person that was there with them. She recorded Lori making out with a man. His left hand was inside her skirt. At first, it felt like my mind was making things up. After rewatching the video multiple times, I realized the only explanation for her change in attitude, sleeping out, staying out late, and talking back at me was because she was cheating on me. You might think I should have been heartbroken and in tears after seeing the video, but I wasn't. I was in rage. Yes, I was disappointed, but I was angry and disappointed. I saved the video on my Instagram saver and waited for her to return. As I expected, she did not return home that night, and when I asked her the next day, she didn't come up with a good reason and just ignored me. I knew she was already cheating on me, but Lori was wise and good with words, and she could say she kissed her affair partner under the influence of alcohol. So I knew I had to gather more evidence. On one of the nights when she was deep asleep, I accessed her phone with her fingerprint, and to my greatest surprise, I found out she was on 3 different dating apps. She created different profiles, and she mentioned that she wanted to have fun and make new friends. Seeing this definitely took me by surprise, and as if that wasn't enough, I found a WhatsApp group chat she belonged to. It was a group chat of 6 ladies, the same ladies she went on her recent vacation with. And the funny thing was, she was the only married one among them. On the group chat, they said all manner of nasty things to each other and teased each other about the men they all slept with. On reading further, I found out that Lori slept with 2 men in the space of 1 week while she was on her fancy vacation, and she even shared with them that her experience with the men was one of the best experiences she had in bed. I couldn't sleep throughout the night because of what I saw on Lori's phone. Deep down, I wanted it to be a bad dream, but it was 100% reality. When Lori woke up the following day to mind her business as usual, I confronted her about it, and she was angry I went through her phone without her permission. She showed no remorse that she was cheating on me with multiple men. Instead, she blamed me for pushing her to do everything she did. She even said that if I wanted our marriage to work, I had to choose between her and my ill father. That was the most hilarious thing she had said in weeks. First of all, it was bold of her to still think we had a marriage after sleeping with every Jack and Jill she met. I told her our marriage was over and kicked her out of my house. There's no way I would pick her over my father. When I told her our marriage was over, she was stunned and said I was saying that because I was mad, but after I threw her stuff out of the house, she understood I wasn't just mad, I was serious. She had never seen me so angry in our 3 years of knowing each other. I told her to return to her men and have fun like she wanted. She left, expecting me to return and beg her like I did the last time. I have contacted the lawyer that will be handling our divorce case, and I can't wait to get it over and done with. Any advice would be appreciated. Now for the first update. Hello everyone. Thank you for your comments. Honestly, when I married Lori, I didn't think her profession would be associated with a high rate of infidelity. No, I'm not accusing all nurses of cheating. It is a noble profession, but some people tarnish its reputation. I'm only surprised as I have read your comments. I don't know what to say to those saying we should have dated long. I felt 1 year of dating was enough, and since we loved each other, I didn't think she would betray me like that. I don't believe that it is my fault that my father needed proper care, and I felt that it was okay for him to move in with us because I believe Lori and I would make him feel at home just as I would have done for any of her parents. So I only did what every other son would do. Last week, my lawyer sent her the divorce papers. She's been blowing up my phone since then. For the 3 weeks before she was served, she didn't call me once or even text. But after she got the divorce paper, she sent me many text messages. I picked up her call 2 days ago, and she was crying over the phone. She said she didn't want us to end things like this, and she did everything she did because she wanted to explore, and she didn't do it to hurt me. I didn't want to listen to the rest of her crap, so I hung up the call. Even if Lori did not cheat on me, neglecting my sick father and telling me to my face that it was not her problem to worry about my father was enough to hurt me. Somehow, I feel divorcing her will not make her feel the same pain I feel. So I've come up with the perfect idea of revenge. So there's one of Lori's closest friends, Adriana. I've been recently talking to. She was the one who posted the live video on Instagram. Last night, Adriana came over to my house to help me look after my father. It was her day off, and we ended up sharing a bed. I don't know if I'm moving too fast, but I'm sure Lori won't be happy that her closest friend and I are getting close every day. I know I'll be judged and called sick, but you know what? I don't care. The situation in which I'm in is unexplainable. My wife cheated on me by sleeping with several men, and my father is on his deathbed. How do I keep myself sane? A part of me just wants to take a picture of us in bed together and send it straight to Lori, but that would be me being childish, right? Meanwhile, I notified Lori's family that we will be divorcing, and I didn't fail to tell them how much of a whore Lori is. Her mother was so disappointed when I broke the news, and she even asked if we could work things out. She tried to preach about marriage and endurance, but there's no way I will be enduring a whore. I'd rather die single. Now, Lori will know what it feels like to live with her parents' disappointment forever. For once, I never expected that a day when I'd have to share my story on this platform would come. Let's say Lori has refused to sign the divorce papers, and I will make another update as soon as she does. Now for the second update. Hello everyone. Thank you for your comments. First, I would love to clarify that I'm not using Lori's friend, Adriana, as a rebound. I've always liked her, but because I'm a very disciplined man, I could not do anything because of Lori. As an adult, I know what is good for me and what isn't. We aren't dating yet. We are only close friends with benefits and respect for each other. So 3 weeks ago, Lori saw a picture of me and Adriana, which I had posted on Facebook, and she started calling me. When I didn't take her calls, she left with me voicemails, saying she knew I was trying to get back at her by hanging out with her friend, and it was working. She begged me again, and she swore she would change. She said her parents were giving her a very tough time, and she missed coming home to a man, and was tired of one-night stands. I knew she was only trying to emotionally manipulate me to take her back, and it wasn't working. When she was tired of crying on the phone, she switched to reminding me of all the promises we made to each other and how she was ready to start afresh. Eventually, I got tired of her spamming my voicemails, so I asked my lawyer to remind her about the signing of divorce papers. After my lawyer sent her the intimation, she showed up at my house unannounced the next day. Unfortunately, Adriana was at home with me that morning, and when Lori saw her, she tried to fight her and make a scene. I was so angry that she was disturbing the neighbor's peace, and I asked her to leave. Funnily enough, she said she wasn't going because we were still married, and she had a right to remain at my house. It was absolutely crazy. She even tried to convince me to take her back, but I told her to her face that I would rather spend the rest of my life with her friend or die single than take her back. When Lori heard that, she got angry, took the divorce papers out of her purse, signed them, threw them in my face, and stormed out of the house. I'm glad she is finally out of my life. Frankly, I wish her a miserable life. Because of the scene Lori created and her trying to assault Adriana physically, I filed a restraining order for her, just in case she thinks of attacking us again. Thank you everyone for your suggestions and advice. I'll be watching out for your comments. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you next time.